We're going to talk about the best positions for helping a woman reach climax. And this isn't just guesswork, this is backed by actual research. I know that when you're with a woman, you ultimately just want to bring her the best experience possible. But what does science really have to say about this? And what can you do to position yourself right to maximize her pleasure? Today, I'm breaking down 2 positions that research shows create consistent results, and one popular position that, surprisingly, science says is the least likely to get her there. And I need to be honest, I was a little disappointed to hear about that last one, but we're going to understand why these 2 positions work and why that one position doesn't. I'm Dr. Fiona Gray, your trusted men's health advisor, and make sure you watch closely because the position I reveal at the end is one that most men think is a guaranteed winner, but science says otherwise. If you want to understand what actually works for female pleasure, hit that subscribe button because we're getting into the real science today. Alright, let's start with the first position that science says works consistently. Standard missionary with a pillow underneath her hips. Now, I've talked about this before, but let me explain why it works so well. When you're on top of a woman and she has a pillow elevating her hips, you're creating the perfect angle for dual stimulation. First, let's talk about the connection aspect. Anytime you're face to face, looking into each other's eyes, that creates incredible emotional connection. And for women, emotional connection amplifies physical pleasure. But now let's talk about the science part. When you're on top of her and you're grinding forward and back, not just thrusting in and out, but grinding, you're hitting one very special area, her clitoris. When you're able to stimulate her clitoris while penetrating her at the same time, you're creating what I call dual action stimulation. She's getting clitoral stimulation, which is how most women reach climax, plus penetration. And when you get both of those together, it's incredibly powerful. This study confirmed that many women were able to reach climax when the man was on top with a pillow underneath, grinding against the clitoris. The key here is the grinding motion, not just thrusting. You want to create friction and pressure against her clitoral area while you're inside her. That combination is what makes this position so effective. Now, the second position that science says works consistently is when a woman is on top of you, leaning forward. Once again, what is she doing? She's facing you, she's leaning toward you, you're inside of her, and there's that face-to-face connection. And there's something about that angle when she's on top that works incredibly well. Now, I know some guys aren't huge fans of this position because they feel less in control. But here's how you can make it even better. When she's on top of you and leaning forward, grab her hips on each side and start guiding her movements. Pull her into you with intention. That take charge motion really does something powerful for women psychologically. It taps into that primal part of the brain where we want to feel desired, wanted, and led. So when she's on top of you, you're inside of her, and she's leaning over you, there's that power of locking eyes and creating deep connection. Now here's the kicker. This is obviously backed by science, but here's the reality from someone who's worked with thousands of men and women on sexual health. While these 2 positions may help her reach climax, they can get repetitive over time. That's why variety matters. Not every position is going to give her the same intensity of climax. But here's where it gets important. Variety keeps things exciting. It keeps the fire burning. It keeps the spontaneity alive because she doesn't know what you're going to do next. When you confidently move her body into different positions, that spontaneity is incredibly attractive. It keeps her seeing you as masculine, as in charge, as confident. When you start changing positions throughout intimacy, it creates excitement and keeps things from becoming predictable. Those 2 positions I shared with you create connection and consistent results. Connection is beautiful and important, but let's be honest, women also want passion, intensity, and variety. We want that unexpected moment, that position that feels raw and exciting. So use those two science-backed positions as your foundation for helping her finish, but don't be afraid to mix in other positions for excitement and passion. Now here's something crucial that impacts all of this: blood flow. Because no matter what position you're in, if blood isn't flowing properly to the genitals, arousal and climax become much more difficult. Both men and women have erectile tissue that needs to engorge with blood for maximum pleasure and sensation. And here's what most people don't realize: nitric oxide production declines as we age, just like hormone production does. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator, which means it relaxes and dilates your blood vessels so blood can circulate more easily. More blood flow to your genitals means the erectile tissue expands more easily, creating stronger sensations and more intense experiences. That's why I recommend Flow, an organic nitric oxide support supplement. Flow is specifically designed to support healthy blood flow to your brain, your heart, and all your parts, including your genitals. It works by supporting your body's natural nitric oxide production using L-Citrulline, which research shows is more effective than L-Arginine at increasing nitric oxide synthesis. What makes Flow different is that it's made in the USA by a family-owned company that uses organic, pesticide-free ingredients, not the cheap, lab-made chemicals from China that most supplements use. More blood flow means better engorgement, stronger sensations, and more pleasurable experiences for both you and your partner. You'll find Flow linked in the description below. Now, this was the position I was really disappointed about because it's just sexy. It's a position men love, but women are not always going to reach climax in this position. And here's the thing, let me make this really clear. I'm going to tell you what this position is, and you might be thinking, wait, Dr. Blake, that can't be true, because when I use that position, she's making sounds, she's into it, she's telling me to keep going. Yes, she's feeling the intensity of penetration. Will she necessarily climax in this position? Chances are no. But does she feel excitement and physical sensation? Absolutely. But in terms of actually reaching climax, science says not necessarily. This position had the least amount of reported climaxes in the study. Are you ready for it? It's doggy style. Yeah, that's right. In that position, according to the research, women were the least likely to reach climax. Why? Because there are two missing elements. First, there's no face-to-face connection. She's facing away from you. She's not seeing your eyes, your expression, your body. And connection matters for female arousal. But here's the bigger scientific reason. Her clitoris isn't getting stimulated in the process. Now, you could obviously reach around and stimulate it manually, but that's not happening naturally in the position itself. The clitoris is key to female climax. When you're able to create that dual stimulation, clitoral and internal, that's when women reach the most intense peaks. But in this position, the clitoris doesn't get any attention. And when she's not getting that stimulation, she's far less likely to finish. So don't feel disappointed if she doesn't climax when you're in that position. Now you know why. The climax isn't happening because there's no clitoral stimulation and there's no face-to-face connection. Here's the bottom line. The two positions that science says work best for female climax are Missionary with a pillow under her hips and Woman on top leaning forward. Both create clitoral stimulation and face-to-face connection. The position that's least likely to get her there? Doggy style, because it lacks both of those elements. But remember, variety still matters. Use those two positions as your foundation for helping her finish, but mix in other positions for excitement, passion, and keeping things fresh. And support your body's natural blood flow with proper nutrition and circulation support so everything works the way it should. Try these insights the next time you're intimate and pay attention to how she responds. Notice the difference when you focus on clitoral stimulation and connection. That's when everything changes. If this gave you science-backed strategies you've never heard before, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and tell me which insight surprised you most. I read every single one. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking care of yourself.